guys, it's Tuesday.
And you know what that means.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Amber.
And this is another episode of True Crime and Chill. $10,000 downloads. Holy crap. I never actually thought that, that many people, I never actually thought people would actually download us that many times. I never thought I'd see that day. It hasn't even been a full year since it started, and we already have that many downloads, and I am kind of shook.
Yeah, that's 10,000 total downloads across all of our episodes. Some of our episodes have as low as 70 downloads, and then there's one, the Watts family actually has almost 1,000 downloads in itself. So, thanks guys for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening to us talk every week. I mean, it's great. It's great. And I know that we are so excited to bring you guys cases every week that you guys like to listen to and that we love to tell you about. Mm-hmm. Also, remember that we now have a Patreon that is located on our website, truecrimeandchill.com. And you can access exclusive content, bloopers, and extra videos we may not share on other pages.
And this week, we want to give a shout out to our patron, Sarah. Hey, Sarah. We want you to know that you rock.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. We love you. And before we start, we have our usual disclaimer.
Yes, we do. We are not detectives, law enforcement, ghost hunters, or reporters. We are just true crime enthusiasts who want to bring you stories and cases that we feel should be shared with the world. If you like us, fantastic. And if not, please remember that it costs $0 to be kind.
Also, if you do like us, you have until the 31st of this month to leave a review wherever you listen to us at. So that means Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podcaster will link our Podchaser on our link and on our website, on our Facebook website and our actual Facebook group as well. But basically, anywhere you would listen to us, leave a review and comment in our group and say, hey, we left a review, and you will be entered into a raffle for a free Starbucks card. But for now, let's get on with the story.
Let's get to it.
All right. So this week's case actually takes place in Glenroy, Victoria, Australia. So we are going outside of the United States for once, because I realize that we have been doing a lot of cases that are just inside the United States and stuff. And I figure, you know what? I know we have a few listeners from Australia, which is nice. And so why not do a case for you guys? And this is actually an old one. So this was back in the 1970s. And honestly, it's a really interesting one just because it's one of those cases that's really never been solved. Plus it's a case that's well, why did he do it? It's interesting. So on July 2nd, 1970, police were called to, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, the Loch Ard Gorge, okay, in Port Campbell, Australia, to check out a car that seemed to be at the bottom of a cliff there. Now, the cliffs there are basically it's a Port Campbell is a it's like a national park and stuff, and it's where the ocean is. So there's lots of treacherous cliffs and stuff. And where this car was found, it was found in this place called the blowhole basically. So the blowhole is things that go down, it just disappear obviously because it goes out in the ocean and nobody ever finds it. So this car was basically teetering on this cliff and stuff. And so bystanders saw it and were like, hey, we should probably call 911 or whatever is the equivalent version of 911 in Australia. So they did. So they contacted law enforcement, and law enforcement went out there. And so they were like, okay, well, this is obviously a huge concern. Once they got to the vehicle though, once they were able to stabilize it and do everything, they found a really gruesome sight. Okay. Inside were the bodies of Therese Crawford and her kids, Catherine, 13, James, 8, and Karen, 6. Therese was actually also pregnant with her 4th child at the time as well. They had all been electrocuted except for the youngest, Karen. And all 3 kids had actually had their heads bashed in with a hammer that was found inside the car. Yeah. A hose had been stuffed into the exhaust pipe and put in the driver's side window to actually make it look like a murder-suicide. Police found out later. So it looked like they had all died of carbon monoxide poisoning. So it looked like Therese had bashed her kids' heads in and then killed herself with carbon monoxide poisoning and stuff. Before any of that had happened though, because the car was in a very precarious place. when they got to the car, the police were able to identify the VIN number on the car first before they were able to actually like look inside and like find the bodies. So they got the VIN number, they ran it, and they realized that it belonged to Elmer Crawford, who was nowhere to be found around the car.
I'm assuming he was taken by whoever killed his family.
You would think. You would
think.
think.
Do it.
Yeah. However, so they eventually figured out that he was the one that killed them and everything. In fact, while the car was being brought up from the cliff, Elmer was actually seen around 5:20 p.m. in his driveway by his neighbors, and that was actually the last sighting of him. Around 6:30, a police officer made a routine check to the house, but left because they had no cause to go in, and Elmer never answered.
Okay, so really quick, they had no cause to go in the house when they found his car teetering on a cliff with his family dead inside.
And that's what I thought too, but I guess like the bodies were, it never really specified whether the bodies were like inside the car or inside the trunk, but regardless, they were hidden enough to where when they first saw the car, they were like, all they saw was just this car teetering. They were able to kind of get it stabilized, get the VIN, like they were able to get like the owner of the car from the license plate and everything, and they were able to find the VIN number from that and stuff. So they were able to like find the person who owned the car. But apparently they thought, your car just teetering on a cliff wasn't enough for them to execute like go inside without a warrant and stuff. I don't know how law enforcement in Australia works differently than the US and stuff. So I don't know why they decided not to go in. Plus this is the 70s. But basically what happened was, like I said, the bodies were hidden under tarps. Like they were wrapped inside tarps and hidden like in the car. And so, like I said before, it was in a very dangerous place. So they were trying to be careful and stabilize it before they could actually go in and check it out. So once they were able to stabilize it so it wouldn't fall in the ocean, and they were able to like get all the information to run who the car belonged to, they weren't able to actually look inside. When police first went to the house, they had no actual reason to go in, so that's why. However, around 10 p.m., that's when they were finally able to get the car stabilized enough to send 2 people down there to actually like look inside the car and see what's going on. And that's when they found like a rifle and blood on the seats. And they actually started like moving. They ended up finding like tarps in the car. And that's when they ended up lifting up the tarps. And they're like, we see feet and we see hands and stuff. And that's when they started finding the bodies. And so the police were like, okay, yeah, no, we definitely need to go back to this house. And so they went back in, broke into this house. They found bloodstained mattresses. They found blankets. They found evidence that somebody had been cleaning up earlier. Like there was still foam from the carpet cleaner on the carpet, and like the carpet cleaner was still out. Like literally it looked like somebody had just been there trying to clean up evidence. And like it was just abandoned on all attempts.
So probably because he knew he didn't have enough time to do what he needed to do. It's possible he saw them coming and he jumped out the back window mid-cleaning.
Oh, yeah. And that's what a lot of people think, too, but nobody saw him leave. You would think, like, people actually think that happened. Like, when the officer first came to the house around 6, he was like, oh, crap. And that's why he didn't answer and stuff. Because it would explain, and also would explain why the fact that, like, the last time anybody saw him was at, like, 5:30. Mm-hmm. So, but, I guess, like, his plan was to say, like, his wife left him with the kids and, like, he was just devastated and all this other stuff, And, I mean, if the car didn't get caught on the cliff and just sunk into the ocean, like, that would have been the perfect plan, like.
Until it washed up somewhere.
Well, the thing about this blowhole is it wouldn't have washed up. It was, like, not necessarily a sinkhole in the ocean, but, like, it was, like, one of those holes where, like, things would go in and not come out.
Oh, it's a blue hole.
No, it's a blowhole. It's called the blowhole. BLOW.
I understand it's called the blowhole, but it's referred to as a blue hole is the actual phenomenon of a random hole in the middle of the ocean. But it could be called the blowhole. But
it's located in like the cliffs and stuff. And so, I kind of understand it's probably deeper than anything, but like that was his original plan and he didn't stick to it. Well, the car didn't stick to it. So
the car thwarted him.
Yeah, the car didn't stick to it. So like, but instead he had like police closing in on him. So he ended up running. And what's even weirder is Brenda Connor, who is best friends with Catherine Crawford. She was the last person to actually speak to Elmer. Like, not just see him, but speak to him. That morning, she, like, around 8:15, like, the day of the killing, she walked from her house to Catherine's house because they usually walk to school together. And so she said, like, Mr. Crawford answered the door, and that was kind of odd because he was usually at work by that time. Mr. Crawford actually worked at the Victoria Racing Club as kind of like a handyman type thing. So he kind of did a little bit of everything, but he was usually at work by then.
Mm-hmm.
So when he answered the door, Brenda was a little, like, surprised, but she wasn't like, oh, she didn't think anything of it. And she, like, told him, like, she's like, I'm here for Catherine. And, like, the way he was standing, like, his hands were, like, pulled, like, to where, like, you could see him and everything. Like, you couldn't see inside. And she realized that, but, you know, she was young at the time. So she's like, okay, whatever. That doesn't seem weird.
Right.
And she's just like, oh, yeah, I'm here for Catherine. And he goes, oh, well, she's not coming to school today. She has the flu. And that's all he said. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she left and everything. And then that was the last time, like, she actually saw him and everything. So she was, like, one of the last people to actually speak to him.
Right.
And so she thought it was just something that was just really weird. And she thinks about it now and she's just like, oh my gosh. Because I guess, like, what happened was they think that they think that he committed the murders between the hours of like nightfall on July 1st and like early morning hours of July 2nd. And so the description of the murders is basically coming from murderpedia.org about Elmer Crawford. And this is basically saying, quote, evidence left by Crawford paints a very chilling picture of how he killed his family. He made a bizarre electrocution device consisting of a 15 meter length of electrical cord with a plug at one end and extension cord socket in the other. Running from the main cord were 5 smaller leads, each with alligator clips on the end. Crawford waited until his wife and children were asleep before murdering them. He then used the electrocution device on his wife, his eldest daughter Catherine, and James. Crawford also bashed Catherine and James in the head, almost certainly with the hammer that was found in the car, fracturing their skulls. Little Karen was spared the electrocution, but she was beaten to death with a hammer. Crawford before all this, removed the seat of his 1956 Holden sedan so he could stack all 4 pajama-clad bodies inside. He each wrapped a body in a blanket and then put a tarp over them and then drove them to Loch Ard Gorge. Yeah, so this guy created, like, this makeshift electrocution device and, like, electrocuted his family to death. And then bashed their heads in. And then, like, he did all of this. And nobody knows why.
Like, is there any kind of history on their relationship or anything like that?
As far as I know, like, not really. Mm-hmm. I mean, not really, because, like, I mean, yeah, they were having some, like, issues and stuff. Like, they were married for a bit, obviously, and, like, I guess, like, Elmer really wasn't a fan of, like, his job and stuff, because he basically worked as, like, a handyman at this racing club for a bit and stuff. And so it was just, it was just, there was not a lot of proof of, like, oh, this is why he did it. He just went out and killed his family. But no justice has actually been brought to Therese and her children right now. A body was actually discovered in like 2002, in 2010, July, like 2010. Victorian police, like, were like, hey, we're working with the FBI. We're trying to identify a man that was found in San Angelo, Texas and stuff that died in like 2005 because they thought it could be Crawford because it matched features of him and stuff, but it turned out, and like the dude had like no fingerprints. He carried multiple like identity documents. Like, it really looked like somebody that like fit the case. But unfortunately, in August of that year, like, the DNA came back from them because they got DNA evidence from a blood relative of Elmer's. And so the DNA came back not matching. So that body in San Angelo was not Elmer. So everybody was kind of like, oh, okay. So everybody was kind of back to square one after that. But I mean, at this point, it's basically about the theories. One of the theories was that Elmer was not happy that Therese was pregnant again. Mm-hmm. Like, she wasn't exactly the happiest either. From what I could find, she actually suffered from postpartum with her children before. And there was some letters expressing her doubts about everything. There was like her, she had like article clippings about like the debate about abortion mm-hmm. and stuff. like whether it's good or bad, and like she had like written letter to her, like her friend expressing like how upset she was about being pregnant again and stuff.
Mhm.
So people think that maybe like Elmer killed the family because she was pregnant again.
Possibly. It kind of, I mean, we mentioned the case before, which is interesting, but it's sort of Chris Watts-esque. Where she was expecting, and it sounds like maybe he wasn't, honestly, it kind of sounds like he wasn't happy with his life at all, and
Yeah.
maybe just, lost it and decided he wanted a fresh start.
Yeah, like she actually writes in the letter, and again, this is a quote from Murderpedia. Like, quote, I have been so upset, but what's the use? I'm 2.5 months now, so it looks like I have to have it this time. We were gonna come up home this Christmas, but won't be able to now as I'm due the end of January. And like she was writing to her family about it, but she never finished the letter because she died. So I mean, she really wasn't that far along and everything. So it was just it. But I mean that if you look at a lot of like family annihilators and stuff, that's usually a reason why is like somebody gets pregnant or money issues
Trigger,
or
yeah,
something like that. And,
well, getting pregnant causes money issues,
yeah.
so it's a major trigger, unfortunately.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. So theory number 2 is Elmer was actually stealing from his job at the Victoria Racing Club.
Ooh.
And that was actually proven true. They discovered actually after Elmer had left the country or the town that he had stolen just items from the Victoria Racing Club,
Mm-hmm.
and that he had actually been stealing items from them and selling them out back to the public for like years. Like this was going on for years.
Ooh.
And stuff. And some of the things that I found was like that his wife had found out and was like going to like tell on him and be like, oh, well, you know what? Like, you're not supposed to be doing this. So I feel like if maybe like that happened, then like it would I would definitely see like if like she had her head bashed in or whatever, that would be one thing. But like making this electrocution thing and then deliberately setting it up and doing all that definitely was a very planned out murder.
Yeah, not only that, but he also then proceeded to kill his children.
Yeah.
So to me, that's an ice snapped moment.
Oh yeah.
But clearly premeditated, considering he made a device.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was it's just, but like I could see like where like maybe he thought he was scared he was going to get caught stealing, but at the same time, like, why would you kill your entire family because of that? Why wouldn't you just run away and leave him alone and stuff? Another theory is that so 2 weeks before the murders, Elmer and his wife actually redid their wills. Yeah. So they did their wills. So, and left a huge amount of money to Elmer, like to Crawford, like to him, in the event that his family died. So this is the more like plausible situation. Is like maybe he was going to like say, oh, well, they were out for a drive one night and their car went over the cliff, or she ran away. Because if somebody disappears and you don't hear from them and there's no hide or hair of them, you can technically have them legally declared dead after a few years.
Right. It takes,
especially if nothing turns up from them.
Years, but yeah.
And so he would get that money. But at the same time, it's like, why would you kill them? Like, why would I honestly don't think that she knew that the wills had been redone.
So if I'm not sure because I don't live in Australia. But typically both parties have to be present for those kinds of changes.
Yeah, but it just makes me wonder, like, why would she and then, like, why would he kill the kids then?
This is also 1970.
True.
And he was the patron of the household, right? The patriarch.
Yeah.
So,
but then why would he kill the kids though? Like, if all it took was for one of them to die, for the fortune to go to him, why would he kill the kids? And it kind of circles back to, well, he probably didn't want them in the first place, which is really sad.
Especially considering their ages. Like,
their oldest was 13 years old.
Yeah.
Like, that's 13 years to reevaluate your life, man.
Right. So I just I don't get it, I guess, but I not only do I have high empathy, but I I can't understand hating or being so mad at somebody that you would be willing to kill them in the first place. And I've had
Yeah.
plenty of people I've been pretty freaking angry at, but
Oh,
never
yeah.
anybody I've been that level of angry with. But also, I can't understand not loving your children enough to not kill them.
Oh, yeah.
I
Well,
just,
and like
it
he
blows
went
my
through
mind.
he went through a lot of work to make sure that this car disappeared. He
Not just that,
loaded
but
up on
the electrocution device.
he took the back seat out of the sedan. He loaded up on gas cans. He he took the back seat out of the sedan, so that way he could lay the bodies down. He loaded up on gas cans. He drove 120 miles to the point where he pushed the car over. He pushed it down and actually ended up laying a pathway of rocks across a drainage ditch in front of the vehicle to be able to get the vehicle to go over this drainage ditch easier. This wasn't just a wake up and, oh, this is something that I did. He planned out all, he went through a lot of trouble and he is still on the run.
It's highly premeditated.
They haven't seen hide nor hair of this man. And actually, Greg Fogarty actually wrote a book in 2011 called Almost Perfect, the true story of the Crawford family murders. And I'll have a link to it on Amazon on our website, True Crime and Chill. But it actually takes a look at the case from a different perspective. So it's actually from the perspective of somebody who actually lived on the same street as them. So it kind of gives a little bit more in depth into the family and what kind of people they were, because from everything that I could find, they were basically the perfect family. And he almost got away with this.
Until they weren't.
Got away with this. Until they weren't. But he almost got away with this. If he would have just stopped to make sure the car had gone all the way into the water, he could have got away with this.
And
straight up.
That's a little surprising considering how planned out this was, how much premeditation went into it prior to this, that he didn't finish the,
when I looked up the area, so obviously me being me, I had to actually look the area up and stuff. Right. So when I looked up the area, I noticed that it's a very open space. It's a very open space basically. And it doesn't have any trees around. That's where the car was found. The picture I sent you is them actually lifting the car up out of the hole. And then here's the picture of the car in the hole. This is the picture before they stabilized.
Oh, yeah. How would he have gotten down there to finish the job?
And this is the picture before they stabilized. And so they actually had to send people down there to do that and everything.
Huh.
So my theory is he saw it go down and he saw it stop, but he probably thought that maybe it would fall down itself.
Yeah, it looks with the way it's balancing so precariously on the edge there. I mean,
yeah, right? Easily he could have thought that it would have go down by himself.
Right. It because it looks like it would. It looks like it's ready to just slide in.
You can see, obviously he probably saw it stop, or he pushed it in and he left before it stopped, or even if he did see it stop right there, he probably thought, oh, well, it'll probably fall in eventually. Because I feel a really hard gust of wind could have blown that over.
Well, and also looking at the photo, there's not a lot of people around, but it could have made a loud enough noise that he was I got to get out of here, because,
yeah,
he easily could have put it, say, in neutral, or, put a brick on the gas pedal to make it go, and, ran away, not seeing the end result, but assuming it fell in.
Exactly.
Because he didn't want to be anywhere around there once that noise hit.
Yeah, exactly. And he probably thought that it would go in by itself and stuff, and then it didn't.
Right.
So when the cop showed up at his door to be hey, we found your car, he probably went, oh crap.
Yeah, no, that's just it. He didn't even get confronted by the police because I'm sure as soon as they showed up, he was like, and I'm outsies.
Yeah, they think that he was actually inside the house and that he was just not answering the door. Like, I'm just gonna sit here really quietly. You know, like when like somebody comes to your door and announces, you're like, I'm just gonna like duck really quietly and hope they just go away.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the pictures will be, and for you, those of you actually like listening and stuff, the pictures will be on our website, truecrimeandchill.com and stuff, so you guys will be able to see them. So if Elmer was still alive, okay, he would be 91 years old this year. 91. Like, this would be like this old, frail looking man walking around doing God knows what. So many people like think he's dead. Like, many people, like a lot of people think he's dead right now and stuff. And a few people think he like lives out on the outskirts of like a city or like out in like a wasteland and stuff, because it's like, well, he's biding his time away until he actually does die, because it's like, it's not like he could get that insurance. It's not like he could get the fortune. Like,
nope.
It's not like he could get all that money.
He took a gamble and he lost.
Well, and some people think that maybe he was a victim himself. Like, very few people think it, but like that theory is out there that maybe he was a victim himself, because maybe somebody killed his family and then killed him and just like buried the body or something.
I mean, if he was stealing from his work,
right?
He also, if they were having money troubles, he could have owed somebody money that he shouldn't have got involved with.
Yeah. So he may have been doing that and everything. So they may have killed his wife and family and then killed him, which would explain like the like torturous death that they went through. Either way, like dude's 91 years old out there if he is alive. But the same question is on everybody's mind. Why did Elmer kill his family, and why is he yet to be found?
Thank you for listening to True Crime and Chill. For more information, including case notes, photos, and sources, visit our website at truecrimeandchill.com. You can also stay connected with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Look for new episodes from us each week on Tuesday.